Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day, Houston. With all the craziness in the world, we're starting the show with a little escapism. When you think of NASA, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Astronauts, exploration, maybe even Houston, aka Space City. What about romantic comedy? Our first guest has turned that unlikely combination into best-selling books. It was written in the stars for author Sara Hudson to write the space series. Astronauts, engineers, and scientists discover that finding love can be more challenging than launching a rocket. Sara joins us to share the inspiration behind her best-selling books, which is part of her personal universe as well. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I love having you. You got an early start at storytelling. You actually describe yourself as an epic fibber as a child. What do you mean by that?
Well, it would be something like my mom would, as they did back in my day, send you out until dark, to play.
Yeah, and flicker the porch light when it's time for you to come home.
When it's time to come home. And I would come home and I had spent all day playing Barbies with Jessica Hampson, my neighbor. And my mom would be like, "What'd you do?" And I was like, "Well, we went into the woods. And we carved our own path through the forest. And we made friends with bunnies." And my mom would just be like, and then just go sit down, have dinner. But I just thought that it was more entertaining that way.
Yeah. And then you picked a career where fibbing would actually work, right?
Yes, exactly.
But, you in high school took a creative writing elective. There's one thing when you write for yourself or you show your parents and they go, "That's good, honey." But when other people notice your writing, when you would take this class and you would hear people chuckling as they were reading each other's works, you knew it was your stuff.
Yeah, that resonated with me because, when you're a teenager, you also have like the mode of angst and you write angsty stuff and whatever and you share it and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." But as soon as I heard someone chuckling over what I wrote, I was like, yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's what I want to bring to the table.
And what's great about this is that you stuck with it. Oftentimes when we do something we enjoy, especially when we're young, we think, well, that's not a living. That's just a passion, right? I've got to major in something else in college. But you followed it all the way through.
I did, but I also did do something else while it panned out. I was a teacher and professor and of creative writing.
You got your master's.
Yes, I got my master's, and I think I was pregnant with my second, Adam, and I was like, "Sara, it's now or never." And so I started writing books, and but the space series was really captured with my oldest, and my husband, who is a NASA engineer, got a call from Peggy Whitson from the International Space Station, and I was trying to keep the kids quiet.
As everyone does, you just get a call from the International Space Station.
Yes. And then of course my son, who's the happiest baby alive, chose that moment to have like an epic meltdown, and I was like, "Shh, Peggy Whitson's on that phone," and got off the phone, and my daughter looked at me and she was like, "Well, that's cool. I didn't know women could be astronauts." And it was like, yes, they can.
Yeah.
And so that's
we think that this generation's already caught on to that, right?
Yes.
But not necessarily.
Yeah, there was something. So I was like, well, obviously I need to represent, because honestly, some of my husband's best bosses are women bosses that I've met, and they really own it over at NASA. And I wanted to represent that for both them and my daughter.
Yeah.
So women can be smart, but they can be funny, and they can be sexy. They can be all the things.
And all that's in your books, and we'll get to how you first started that series in a second. But going to school, and a lot of people feel like writing is just something you just sit down and do. There is some mechanics to it.
A little bit.
Yeah. And you got to be that kind of creative person. But what you learned at school meshed with what you naturally were. But you had that same feistiness that you had as a kid. You reworked a classic. You read Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, which a lot of us know, right? It was mandatory reading for a lot of us, and you just didn't like the way she did things.
Oh no, not at all. Well, that's the second piece of the puzzle. I knew I wanted to make people laugh, but after I read and watched the book and the movie Little Women, I was livid. I was like, that is not a happy ending. And I was like, why is Joe with this old German guy? And why is Lori with the little sister who's such a brat? I was like, none of this makes sense. So I wrote, I guess, what they call fan fiction at this point, and I rewrote the whole story so it would be a happy ending in my mind. And so laughter and happy ending, sort of romantic comedy.
Yeah, because you want books to be an escape, and that's what romantic comedy really
Yes.
is, and we need a lot of that today. All right, the space series in particular, I mentioned earlier that was kind of part of your universe because you are married to?
Yes, Ken Neese, he's a NASA engineer. He's wonderful, hardest working guy I know. And he's sort of the inspiration for the character in the first book, Space Junk. I like to call him, the character's name is Jackie, and I like to call him, Ken is Jackie with boobs. Like he was.
All right. So it's no surprise that you thought, okay, let me put this in like kind of the space world because that's where the world that you were living in. But to make it a romantic comedy, how'd you put those two things together?
Well, I knew I wanted to write romantic comedy because of the laughter and I knew I wanted happy ending. And what I found interesting with both my inspiration from my daughter and my husband is that you see a lot of really cool stuff with NASA out there for all mankind, the right stuff.
Very science-based, yeah.
Yes, very science-based. But or even the closest I could get to it was like Space Cowboys, you know, the Clint Eastwood movie from back in the day. But we're the women. Like usually, if it's in those sorts of like For All Mankind, it's a serious thing, you know. Or if it's funny, it's the guys. And I was like, no, the women are smart. The women are.
Maybe like the Hidden Figures was still about the seriousness.
The seriousness,
as opposed to the humanness of some things. And I say and the romance part.
Right? Yes. So that's sort of where that came in. I wanted to show the real life. It's not in space. It's like at Mission Control. It's at Johnson Space Center, and it's the women and the men working there and sort of finding their way through while being, you know, awesome at their job and funny while doing it.
Yeah, I love like the title. So Space Junk, Houston, we have a hottie.
Yeah.
All right, book number 2, Space Cowgirl, Houston, all systems go. So what was the premise of that one?
That one is a female astronaut, Julie Starr, and a billionaire cowboy. I mean, if you're going to be a cowboy, be a billionaire cowboy, right? And they're complete opposites. They don't like each other, enemies to lover, but they're coming together to put on the wedding for the first couple in the first series. And so I like that one a lot. And that one you get into a lot of the astronaut training too, because everything in these books, while maybe not probable, is possible.
Yeah.
So it's all
based on real stuff.
Based on real stuff, all the research and everything, yeah.
Book 3, Space Oddities, Ground Control to Major Cutie.
Yes, that one's good. That one, that female character is a non-NASA, and Ian Kincaid, the hero, is NASA, and she's a wanted felon. She's on the run, and she's a romance author, and he's the son of a senator and a NASA engineer. And so there's a lot of hidden identities and secrets in that one.
Yeah, all right, book 4, Spaceballs, Houston, we have liftoff.
Yes, that's probably a little, like the Space Junk will have a place in my heart as the first, but Spaceballs, that sort of was the chef's kiss, in my opinion, to the series, because you have Rose West, who is a female billionaire, because that's another thing you don't see in the romance community, and then a NASA astronaut, and they have a pretty epic fail of a start, and then they get to have their happy ending.
Yeah, all right. So where do you get the titles from? How do you come up with those? Is that a big process, or is it a?
Well, it started off is Houston, we have a hottie. It was like the first one, but then I thought
which is a play off of Houston, we have a problem.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And then I thought, well, it needs sort of more branding, and of course. So that's where like the business aspect. My father was a businessman, and so that's really helped me. Because I'm an independent publisher, so I had to create all this. And I thought the branding of the space series all the way through was the way to go. Yeah.
With that said, you said independent. You know, I get to ask this question all the time. People are like, I have a book, but I don't know which way to go. I don't know how to submit it. I don't know what to do. Luckily, today is much more opportunity to independently publish than ever before.
Yes, it's great. I was very lucky. I had some like really good mentors. Emma St. Clair is a Houston author here, and she really helped me go through everything, and I like the control.
Yeah, well, mission control right here.
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of times you submit a book, and mine was submitted, and someone was interested, but they're like, but I want you to change X, Y, Z. Yeah. And I was like, no, I like X, Y, Z.
Yeah, coming from the girl who changed Little Women to
yeah, exactly.
to
Yeah, so no surprise there, really. You know, so I enjoyed that. So yeah, I'm my own marketer, I'm my own advertiser, I'm my own brander, my own. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the messaging you want people to get, or the joy that you want them to get from these books in particular.
Yes, panty-melting, laugh-out-loud romantic comedies about smart, strong, funny women.
Yeah, all right. And if someone's saying, I would like to write a book, where do they start?
With the first page, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
with the scariest
part.
part.
Circling in your head, start to put something down on paper.
But the good thing about that is once you conquer the blank first page, it's all downhill from there, really.
All right, what's next in the series?
I have a soccer series coming out.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
inspired by the World Cup, except this time, of course, on brand. It's female professional soccer players, and they're happily ever afters and some NASA tie-ins there, because
Okay.
it's going to be a Houston team.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Deborah.
And by the way, your daughter, run over here real quick. This is the daughter that you said was the one that
Yes,
you
this is my big inspiration.
Yeah. Come on over. All right. So now you know that women can be astronauts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And anything else? What would you like to do when you grow up, do you think?
I want to be an author like my mom.
Ah, very cool. So are you a big fibber also? All right. You can buy all 4 books of the Space series on Amazon, and to learn more about author Sara L. Hudson, visit greatdayhouston.com and we will connect you.